Hey, how's it going? I just wanted to say congratulations and kudos to John Mayer. It takes an awful lot of heart and soul to go from a pop heartthrob in your 20s to a living legend of rock and roll in your 40s. That is a long journey, and I'm making this video kind of to just bring a little perspective to John's career and John's life from another guy who plays guitar in his 40s, and how I've kind of seen the progression of his life and as an artist and career as a musician. So let's go back to the 90s, I guess. In the 90s, all of a sudden this guy emerged, John Mayer. And he had all these really good songs. And we were all like, man, have you heard this guy's studio record? Like, he's on a whole other level. As far as musicianship goes, and his voice sounded so much older than what he appeared to look like. So he was kind of like this mystery to us. We're like, John Mayer, who is this guy? So then you learn about his story, that he's from the South. I think he emerged from Atlanta, and then he went to Berkeley and then recorded this album. And then all of a sudden he blew up. Like, huge. Like Ed Sheeran, Shawn Mendes huge. Just to put it in context for some of you guys. Yeah, he blew up, and all of a sudden John Mayer was like this pop heartthrob. Everybody loved him. He was like on the cover of music magazines and on Rolling Stone, and then he showed up on Oprah, and he was like all of a sudden in this stratosphere of fame and celebrity. It's like a whole different world. And I can only imagine what that happens to when that happens to a person, how it changes their life, especially at such a young age. Like, I mean, you're a whole different person. You have access to a whole bunch of different resources. You can play with any musician you want. You can record in any studio you want. You can really do whatever you want, tour whenever you want. And we were all like, oh man, I guess John Mayer's this pop dude. Like, who knows where this is going, right? But we kind of always had that curiosity, that mystery, right? Like, but he's such a phenomenal guitar player. Like, at some point, all these girls are gonna stop liking him, right? Nope, that charm lasted his whole life. You can't take that away. He is charming, super intelligent, and really relatable. Like, it makes perfect sense that he would blow up in the 2010s as well. But yeah, then he came out with the Trio, the blues record. And we were like, all right, going back to some blues roots. Because we always heard the Stevie Ray Vaughan, the Albert King, the throwbacks, the references, right? Especially, I heard it the most in his voice with Stevie Ray Vaughan. Which I feel like a lot of people don't talk about much. But how John Mayer's voice really is emulated by Stevie Ray Vaughan's voice, but in a very different arena. Anyway, he made the blues record, and we were like, all right, dude's ripping. Then kind of went along for a while, had some more pop drama, was with Katy Perry for a while. We're like, what? Okay, pop matchup here. Celebrity style. That blew him up in another way. We're like, but he's still a great musician. We know guitar is his main thing. All this other stuff is kind of like, you know, just side gigs and having fun with his life. We know he'll be playing his guitar probably till the end of his life because he's obviously obsessed with it. Then came the Grateful Dead. And it was like, okay, well, this is really interesting. Let's see how this works out, right? John Mayer collaborating with members of the Grateful Dead, like counterculture. The Grateful Dead is known for being anti-pop. Anyways, there's this great book about how the Grateful Dead was the greatest marketing band, like the marketing principles of the Grateful Dead. Sorry. So back to John Mayer. Yes, the Grateful Dead emerged and we were like, okay, now this is interesting. John Mayer is going to try to sound like Jerry Garcia. Like, you don't get more legendary than Jerry Garcia. He pretty much founded an entire genre of music with his band, the Grateful Dead, right? So he stepped in. Trey Anastasio did that gig in Chicago, the Fare Thee Well tour, which we knew was going to be amazing. But Trey is his own person already with Fish, and he was never going to reinterpret the stylings of Jerry Garcia. He was going to go in there and be Trey and give a little nod to Jerry Garcia, right? A little tip of the hat, if you will. But John Mayer lived and breathed Jerry Garcia all of a sudden. He like jumped in there, learned everything there is to know about Jerry Garcia. And at the time, sorry, I need to switch hands here. At the time, there were other Jerry Garcia cover guys who do Jerry Garcia way better than John Mayer did. John Kadlecek from Dark Star Orchestra, he's one guy that comes to mind. He doesn't play with them anymore, but I mean, John Kadlecek does Jerry Garcia way better than almost anyone on earth. So he could have done that gig, but hats off to Bobby and the rest of the Grateful Dead members for knowing that that would be too Jerry, right? They needed a guy who was open-minded and strong-willed and wanted to learn. So John Mayer now is all of a sudden a living legend in rock and roll. Who would have thought it? Not this 46-year-old guitar player. I mean, we always knew he had the chops, but you know, I guess you got to prove yourself in this world. And now he's huge, all over YouTube. There are 22-year-old guitar players who worship the ground that John Mayer walks on. And I just think that's beautiful, man. So kudos to John. You did it, man. You've lasted the storm and you deserve it, man. I'm sure it has not been easy. It's a wild ride, I'm sure. And now he's going to get to, because he's paid his dues in these ways and made these beautiful calculated risks, he's playing music for the rest of his life. He and that guitar and his songs will be able to do this as long as he wants to do it. So that's beautiful. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching my video. Sorry I'm out of breath. I've been walking up this steep hill. Thanks, John. See you guys. Bye.